seats and we will be starting. So hi everyone, welcome to our Calling All Young People event. Since we are taking back our flag, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So my name is Myra, and I started Indivisible Boca Raton back in March because I thought it was necessary to have a local chapter right in our own neighborhood. People always ask me, what is Indivisible? Indivisible is a nonpartisan grassroots movement of thousands of local indivisible groups with a mission to elect progressive leaders, rebuild our democracy, and defeat the Trump agenda. On July 17th, we honored the great John Lewis. 300 people came to that tribute. It was a very special evening, and we thank everyone who attended. We are continuing his tradition of good trouble with our protests against the GEO Group and the inhumane conditions at the detention centers that the GEO Group operates. They have made billions of dollars running these facilities, and they have faced accusations of inhumane conditions and other human rights abuses. On July 26th, we held a protest near the GEO Group headquarters. Around 100 protesters came out to join us despite the early morning start and, of course, the heat. The media has started to notice our endeavors. WLRN published an article about our event. Our next rally on Saturday, August 9th, will again be a protest against the GEO Group, but we are moving it back to the Boca Raton City Hall at 201 West Palmetto Park Road because we felt the visibility of Technology Way was not as good as City Hall. This protest will start at 9:30 a.m. and end at 11. And by the way, don't worry if you don't get all the information that I'm telling you now. I'm going to send you everybody a newsletter in a couple of days, and you'll have every single protest and everything that we're doing for the whole month of August. So there will be other protests in August. Please take note. On August 16th, there will be a protest at the Migrant Detention Center in the Florida Everglades, used to be known, we don't call this anymore, as Alligator Alcatraz from 10 to 11:30. It is being organized by multiple groups, including South Palm Beach County Indivisible, Hope in Action, 50501, and others. Please see Scott Fine, he's over there, and after this meeting for more information and to sign up. We will support Palm Beach Indivisibles as they protest Avelo Airlines on the fourth Saturday of each month, 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock at the Palm Beach International Airport. Students at FAU are organizing a protest against ICE on Friday, September 5th from 3 to 6:30, and we will support their efforts as well. We are also collaborating with South Palm Beach County Indivisible's Immigration Committee. Their leader, Barbara Erev, already has a comprehensive plan of action in place. She's over there at the table, and we are thrilled to be joining her. She is here tonight, so please see her after the meeting for more information and to sign up. Please join one of our committees. Sign-up sheets are at a table in the back. We have hospitality, media, youth outreach, special events, and voter outreach. Our voter outreach committee chair, Frankie, she's over there, is at a table registering people to vote and re-enrolling people who want to vote by mail. Please see her to join her committee. Become a mentor, change a life. The Talented Teen Club invites you to join their mentoring family. They are calling on experienced, compassionate adults to step into a powerful role, mentoring students ages 11 to 18 in middle and high school. Please see Sean and Dominique, they're over there, for more information. Attention environmentalists, I believe Sean Rourke is here tonight from the Palm Beach County Democratic Environmental Caucus. Please stop at his table for more information. Now, our next meeting will be on Monday, September 8th, right here at 6 p.m. This is an event we have all been anticipating. Congressman David Jolly will be the keynote speaker. For anyone that does not know him, David Jolly was a Republican congressman in Florida. He has since changed his affiliation to Democrat, and he is running for governor of Florida in the 2026 election. Please mark this in your calendars. We expect a very large crowd for this event. Some people like to rally, but others like to bake. Bakers, here is your chance to shine. We are going to have a fundraising bake sale at our next meeting on September 8th. Please see James and Georgette, they're over there, from hospitality if you are able to contribute baked goods for that event. And we have t-shirts. For a minimum donation of just $20, you too can be the proud owner of our navy blue Broken Heart Flag 100% cotton t-shirt. These are perfect to wear at our protests and rallies. It really makes a statement when we are all wearing them. Please see Linda over there at the back to get yours today. We know that the future of our country lies in the hands of the young people of this country. We, as an older crowd, can only do so much by ourselves. We must hand the torch over to a new generation of activists. Since this is a young people event, and I am clearly not a young person, I am turning this portion of the meeting over to Charmaine Postal. Charmaine is a dynamic nonprofit leader. As president of the Bold Foundation, Inc., she leads initiatives focused on mentoring, leadership development, and youth empowerment. She champions educational advocacy through her leadership roles with the Florida PTA at the local, state, and national levels. Please welcome Charmaine Postal.
Good evening. Good evening. I have my eyes, but I have my big letters. So once again, good evening. And Myra, Linda, I just want to say first, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this organization, be a part of this evening's event, and wanted to say thank you for this. So I just want to share a little bit about a background. So last year I ran for office, and I remember we had so many different conversations. I ran for school board, and one of the conversations that we had was, how are we going to come together no matter what, to move the movement forward, to move the next movement forward? And so seeing what you have done here and saying, hey, this is a non-partisan organization where we're coming together and we're willing to share the baton, we're willing to share the torch with the next generation, and we're going to be right here, right beside you, to move the next generation forward. So, once again, good evening, everyone. So, welcome to tonight's conversation, learning about the strategies of a new generation of activists. So, whether you're here as a seasoned advocate or you're just starting to explore activism, We're gathering a critical moment in our democracy where new energy, fresh strategies, and cross-generational collaboration are more necessary than ever. Tonight's panel brings together three powerful young voices who are actively shaping the next wave of civic engagement. We'll explore not just how young people are organizing, but how we, as a community, can support and grow innovative, intergenerational movements. Let's meet our panelists, and as I call them and introduce them, they can make their way up to the stage. Jaden D'Onofrio, Chair of Florida Future Leaders and currently running for State Representative in House District 102. Trevor Fleming, President of Palm Beach County Young Democrats and aide to Congresswoman Lois Jones. And Nick Ostheimer, President of FAU Democrats and a leading voice in campus organizing and political. Welcome. I give each of our panelists about 1 minute, about 1 minute to introduce yourself, about 1 or 2 minutes, to introduce yourself beyond what I've shared with the audience. And we can start with Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. Microphone work, is this good?
Microphone.
What about that one? That one on? Sure. The acoustics here are great though. Hi, I'm Nick. Well, I'm Nick Ostheimer. I was born and raised in Pompano Beach, Florida. A lot of the work we've been doing lately is about immigration. So I think one important thing for me to say about myself is I'm the first American citizen in my family, and I'm very proud of that. I have no intention of being last.
Hi, my name is Trevor Fleming. I born and grew up here in West Palm Beach. I've been a lifelong Palm Beach County resident. My day-to-day job, I work for Congresswoman Frankel, who I'm more than happy to work for. She's a great representative for this area. And I guess in this case, I don't really think about it that often, but I am the first generation American. My mom immigrated here from the Caribbean. So happy to be here with you guys. Thank you guys for coming out here and hopefully have a good conversation.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jaden D'Onofrio. I am the chairman of the Florida Future Leaders PAC. We lead much of the youth organizing in Florida for the Democrats. And I live in Broward County. Proud Floridian, obviously, and I'm also running for Florida State House, District 102.
Thank you, and there was light. Gentlemen, I think we have two of you. I have the same thing in common. I'm a first generation. I'm a first generation as well as a Palm Beach County-er. I've only lived in 2 cities. Fun facts: Boynton Beach and Boca Raton. So, in one sentence, tell us what drives your activism today. We'll start with you.
In one sentence?
In one sentence.
For my mother. My mother, yeah. I guess to give a little bit more than that, my mother had passed away in 2020, and I got involved because of her. And I want to make her proud. So, that's fine.
Hard to boil it down to one sentence, but I'd say history. History is a struggle for us as far as me being a black man. So it's just me continuing the fight for me and my people, my family.
Sadly and understandably, this doesn't come easily to a lot of people, but I really love my country.
Here to start with that one icebreaker, that one sentence, because we're going to be having a deeper conversation tonight about youth activism. So let's start with Jaden again. Jaden, you built voter registration campaigns from scratch and made grassroots fundraising look extremely easy. what have you found young people respond to more? Facts, feelings, FOMO, so for those of you who don't know what FOMO is fear of missing out. My daughter told me this week, so don't. And how do you package political urgency without making it sound like a homework assignment?
Yeah, I mean, so great question, first off. I think there's a lot of different pieces to it. Number one is, it could be facts, feeling, and FOMO, all in one. But I think the most important thing is the feelings part, right? Let's take Joe Biden and the 2024 election, for example. We all thought the economy was amazing, right? The statistics show it. The economy was amazing, but people weren't feeling it in Florida, okay? Especially here in Florida. We have a massive property insurance crisis. We have a massive auto insurance crisis. 1 in 5 people driving on our roads right now are uninsured. And if you think about young people, they are feeling this the most. I'm 20 years old right now, and I don't know when I will be able to own my first home in Florida right now, okay? And I have to imagine that if we ask the other two panelists up here, they'd probably feel the same. And if you ask any other young person in this room right now, they probably feel the same regarding that. And so I bring this up because the issues are the most important thing, and how they feel about those issues are critical. We have to talk about those issues. We have to make sure it's youth talking to youth about those issues. And look, for us, with the Florida Future Leaders PAC, last year we had 3 million direct voter contacts. We had historic youth turnout in all of the campuses that we worked on. And it was because of that youth-to-youth component, where we were able to talk to our own generation about those issues. And we saw time and time again, affordability was the #1 issue, okay? We also saw the amendments last year, Amendment 3 and Amendment 4, recreational marijuana, the right to choice, big issues. So if we're actually talking about those issues, those voters, they're gonna feel a certain way, they're gonna understand the statistics behind it, and they're gonna get the fear of missing out on actually voting to support themselves.
So true.
Yeah, and you know, I'm up here with some amazing young adults here who are getting into the political fight at a young age. And I gotta say, as far as me, I'm a little bit older. I'm about 30s, 32. But we face the same issues as the younger people who are just coming in out of college right now. They're worrying about a job market that's looking increasingly worse. How, as Jaden said, the housing is insane, especially in South Florida, where it's been unaffordable for a while and it's not getting any better. So there's a lot of challenges that we're facing, and we're here because we're looking for political leaders who could rise to that challenge.
Trevor, you can hold the mic because there's a segue that I would love to just go right into. You've got one foot in Washington and the other in South Florida organizing, right? What's one behind the scene thing about Congress that you wish young people, or frankly, all people, understood better?
No, it's been an incredible honor to work for the Congresswoman, and it does give you a different perspective onto what is going on in constituents' lives day to day. But I'd say overall, I think it sounds almost cliche in a sense, but politicians are just normal people. You know, I think a lot of the times we think of politicians as some type of, you know, they're awesome. You get these, you know, Trump hats, you get all these shirts, these stuff. You kind of deify them and think that they're something a little bit more than your standard common human beings, normal person, but they experience all the same things that we experience. And I think that when it comes to your voice and how you use it, a lot of the times when it comes to politics, we can feel a little hopeless. It can feel like nothing really ever changes. But I think it's important to realize and to keep in mind that, you know, politicians do listen to people, they listen to us. When we organize and we fight for something, it's something that they will take note of. And at times, if you have the right politician, they will change their views to match something that fits what their constituents are looking for. So I just want to say overall, it's been incredible working for Congress. And it really allows you to see that we're all just people. We can make it, we have the same flaws and mistakes that, you know, normal people can make, but politics can be somewhere where people can make a change if they organize and fight for it. So it's something that I've learned and internalized in my time working for the Congresswoman.
I I love that, Trevor, and what you said was actually true. So this past March, I was advocating in Tallahassee, and we went into one of the legislators, we as in PTA, we was there for the legislative conference with PTA, and 30 minutes prior to going on the floor, there was a conversation regarding a amendment that happened overnight, and we were supporting this particular amendment, or we were supporting a particular bill, but that amendment would have been detrimental to our children, especially our ESE students. And we advocated, we went in, we talked to the legislator, 30 minutes prior to committee, that legislator changed her mind. Not only did the representative change her mind, the Senate, they both pulled the amendment, and that bill did pass. So I love that. I'm going to pivot to Nick. Nick, you've been organizing on campus through some turbulent times, including fighting back against top-down university decisions. How do you get students to go from group chat complaints to showing up at a real-world protests and meetings?
I think a lot of students, and really a lot of young people, and really a lot of Americans, don't realize how powerful they are when they work together on something. Every decision worth making in human history was made by a small group of people that cared. So the moment that you get a couple of students together to organize, to protest, to join student government, to make their voices heard in a way that no one can afford to ignore them, they'll see results. And once students see that there is a record, a legacy of their effort making a difference, it gives them a reason to come back out again. When it comes to FAU in particular, there's a long and ugly history in a couple of different ways, but you heard about the GEO Group. Pretty much all of their founders and a great deal of their trustees are FAU alumni. As of last February, our new university president, Adam Hasner, was one of their executives for a long time and remains a trustee. One of the FAU trustees, aside from the president, is also still a GEO Group trustee. At the job fair that they had, I believe earlier in August, a couple of days ago, they had the GEO Group there looking for FAU graduates to join and work for them, probably in a white-collar position. So they're everywhere, and they have a good deal of institutional power in Palm Beach and at FAU. About a decade ago, they wanted to make a huge donation, a huge contribution to FAU to rename the stadium, the football stadium at FAU. Literally the GEO Group Stadium. We would have had our football stadium named after a private prison company that specializes in immigrant detention. That's nuts. And it would have happened if the protest movement at FAU didn't go viral, because we had 30,000 signatures on a petition, a student action where students confronted the then university presidents. That's probably what made it go viral, because she ran into one of them with her car, and that caused some ruckus. But even after the FAU Board of Trustees renamed the stadium and agreed to take that money, they walked back the decision because of public outrage. And so that is exactly the record of success that we're trying to demonstrate to students as we move into the challenges that face us today. It is exactly how we mobilized more than 100 students to demonstrate against Adam Hasner's confirmation in February, and it is exactly how we plan to get 500 students and external groups like yourselves to protest at the FAU campus in September against their recent 287G agreement with ICE.
Jaden, you've worked to empower students and young lawyers across Florida as well. So from your perspective, what can small local groups like ours, like this group here today, do that big national organizations can? Especially trying to engage young people. I can hear the whispers, I'm sorry.
First off, national organizations are exactly what they are, national, okay? You all are as local as it gets, okay? You have granddaughters, grandsons, you have sons, you have daughters, they all live in this community. We have to start with them, first off. I mean, are you talking to your own family members, is the first question for yourselves. If you've already talked to them, your neighbors, do you even know who your neighbors are? Is a big question, I feel like. A lot of people would maybe not know the answer to, unfortunately, given where our society is at right now. We have to start as local as we can, and you all are the key to that. Whereas national organizations like, you take either political party, that's a national thing. They're not here locally. They don't know the problems that you all face every single day in your local community. So talk to your family first, talk to your neighbors, come out to meetings like this. I think that's incredibly important. But look, I think the most important thing out of all of this is we have an election next year. We have midterms next year where we have to make sure there are people who are registered to vote, they're turning out to vote, and they're paying attention to the campaigns that are happening locally. And I bet you all of those campaigns, they need volunteers to knock doors, to do phone banking, to make sure that they're getting the money that they need. I know because I'm a candidate right now, okay? And I'll gladly take any money that you have. Just put that out there. But seriously, if there is a campaign that you care about, be there for them. Knock those doors for them. Make sure that every single person that you know is registered to vote. Because the legislature in Florida right now, every single legislative session for the past 4 years, they have passed a bill to make it harder and harder to register to vote in our state right now. And they're going to keep passing those bills to make sure that people like us up here don't vote. To make sure our peers who are college students don't vote. Because they don't want us to vote. If your political party or your legislator is advocating for people not to vote, they are probably on the wrong side of history. But it's up to each of you to make sure that they are held accountable for that action, which is where that door knocking, that phone banking, those contributions, and making sure that people are registered to vote is so important.
A pulse of the audience, and just a quick pulse of the audience. Raise your hand if you have donated to a campaign before.
Wow. I will call each of you.
Raise your hand if you have knocked on doors for a candidate. And raise your hands if you have ran yourself as a candidate. I see one hand. We're gonna change that tonight. Oh, I have to raise my hand. You have to raise your hand as well because you're a candidate now. Okay, there's a few. We're going to go into questions. We just got 2 more structured questions and we'll go right into it. We reserved the evening for questions from the audience. And I love this panelist because when we had our little quick powwow meeting, they said, more questions from the audience. And so we're almost gonna power through the questions that we have for them because we want you to get an idea of who they are. But then we also wanna be intentional because we didn't come here just to hear ourselves talk. We wanna hear what you want from these young gentlemen. I can say gentlemen. Trevor, as president of the Palm Beach County Young Democrats, you've helped rally events. What's something older folks, or my mom would literally be slapping me right now if I said older folks, seasoned folks, consistently underestimate about Gen Zs, and I wouldn't limit it just to Gen Zs, it could be millennials or any other in between, political energy. So what is something that seasoned folks consistently underestimate about political energy, and how can we tap into whatever that is without accidentally killing the vibe, as we have students would say?
I would say when it comes to, let's focus on younger folks. I feel like we always get a little bit, we kind of handle young folks a little bit with child gloves, right? We kind of underestimate their intelligence, their willingness to basically get involved and be in the fight for the politics. And I think that has been so insanely disproven over these last few years, especially with some of the political campaigns we have seen. And you can easily tap into this energy by giving young people a role in terms of your political clubs and making sure that they're involved, they feel seen and heard, that their decisions or at least the decision-making process, is able to get to the front line so that they're able to see themselves in these groups as well. And, just looking back, I don't know, let's say last year with Kamala Harris's campaign, personally, I felt pretty hopeful. I felt good. I felt like we were doing the right thing. The entire campaign was great. The entire campaign, the digital, and a lot of the marketing and a lot of the campaign strategy came from young people. So I think it's important to give young people the reins, because when we give them the ability to actually be within our system and to actually have decision making and actually be able to make content, as you would say, or just be able to do outreach, we've seen how that really can energize not just the younger people, but people of all ages, because they come in with some new ideas, some cool marketing, some cool ways to do videos and whatnot that really engages the audience in a different way than if it was just your standard 30-second political ad in the middle of your football game. So I think we should definitely give young people a little bit more reins and allow them to make some decisions and be involved with our political process, and don't underestimate them. They're very competent. So yeah, I think we could do all that without killing the vibe.
As I asked the two other panelists to opine on that same question, and I can repeat it, I am going to prepare the audience for questions if you want to start making your way. But I will ask that as you are approaching the microphone, limit your question, the question part, to about 30 seconds. That means you have time to write out that question, come to the mic, and so that they will be able to effectively answer the question, and we can continue to go through the evening. So I am going to repeat the question that I asked Trevor, and I would love for Jaden and Nick to opine on it. What's something seasoned folks, I know I said older, but seasoned folks consistently underestimate about Gen Z's political energy, and how can we tap into it without accidentally killing the vibe?
So what Trevor said about young folks being competent but underutilized, it's very, very true. Me and my family, we've always been very political, and I've always been, debating with my mom and with my dad about something in the news, and really I only was interested in getting involved in politics when I saw January 6th unfold on live television, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is real. Like, this is existential for my country, and it's not right if I stand by and just let it happen. So I was in 8th grade, I was 14 years old, and I got up from the couch and I thought, okay, what am I gonna do? Someone give me something to do. And I was looking for 4 years to get involved in a meaningful way to make myself useful. When I got involved with the Florida High School Democrats, I basically got homework, which was a total bummer. There are way more valuable things for young folks, as young as 14, to be doing. Maybe not phone calls, although I think people may underestimate how good they are on the phone, but definitely text banking, or at least working with, graphics on social media. I can't tell you how many groups have approached me to ask for help with social media and putting together Canva graphics for their Instagram feed or their Facebook feed. Ask a 15-year-old. They'll do a really good job, and no one is interested in finding a 15-year-old to do it for them. I want to give a lot of credit, by the way, to Jaden for creating these opportunities for young folks. The first time I made myself useful was in fall of last year when I saw a flyer for the Florida Future Leaders PAC organizing program at FAU, and I got hired. And so I registered a couple hundred folks on campus and drove them out to the polls. That was a really pivotal moment in my life, because all this frustration that had boiled up from January 6th, finally there was something I could do about it. But it shouldn't have to wait until I'm 18 years old and walking around a college campus looking for something to do. There's lots of high schoolers, even middle schoolers, who want to get involved, and they should have real opportunities to.
I would say, on top of everything that was just mentioned, when I think about youth in particular, and sometimes people like to say that youth don't care. And I think that is the worst mindset we could possibly have. Youth absolutely care, okay? The turnout, we need work on the turnout, okay? It's a given. We all know this. That doesn't mean they don't care, is my point though, and I'll tell you why. the vast majority of youth have never felt outreach to by a political party. They've never seen messaging targeted to them. They've never felt represented by a political party. And they've never felt heard on the issues that they care about. So why should any of these young voters turn out? The answer is no, they wouldn't turn out. It makes no sense for them to turn out, basically, because they don't see a system that is working for them in any real way. Both on the issues, the candidates, the parties, everything. We have a political party right now, the Democratic Party, which I am a member of, and I'm a proud Democrat, by the way, that is currently dominated by leaders who have been around for decades. Decades. Experience is incredibly important, but there is also a time where we need to realize it's time for something new. There needs to be events. We have had in Florida, Republicans dominate us in the state legislature for every year since 1996. The governor's mansion for every year since 1998. That is 30 straight years of Republican domination in Florida. And we still do not have a bench. And I'll give you an example. All love to David Jolly. I am supporting David Jolly in this primary, in this election. I think he will be our nominee. But it is an example that we are running a second-time former Republican as our Democratic nominee for governor. I just have to say it. So, and there's no hate to him. I look forward to supporting him. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great candidate. But there needs to be a bench, and there needs to be an investment towards the future. And that starts with things like this.
Nick, we're gonna have you grab the mic and ask you this last question. And I think Jaden segued us right into it. You've been vocal about rebuilding trust in the Democratic Party among students, right? What's something that has worked on campus that make the message land? So, and what should we absolutely avoid doing when trying to bring them back? I think we all can take a piece of that book or a chapter out of that book.
So, first of all, before we got started, Myra told you that Indivisibles is a nonpartisan group, not directly affiliated with the Democrats. I think the reason I keep getting invited back to these events is because I will be the very first Democrat to admit that this party has a lot of soul searching to do. When I introduce myself on the FA breezeway to someone walking past me, and I want to register them to vote, I want to talk to them about politics. First of all, they're going to pick up the pace and start walking at New York City speeds to try and avoid my eye contact, because my tablecloth has a big Democrat sign on it. And when I introduce myself, I'm very reluctant to introduce myself as a Democrat, because the brand is toxic. And this is, first of all, an issue with the party, but second of all, it's an issue with politics in general. Young people feel left behind by the political system on both ends of the spectrum. Republican is just as much of a bad word as Democrat is. And young people who are registered to vote, they are identifying as independents more than they are with either political party, because they don't feel represented by either political party. So that is for a couple of reasons, and not all of them are generational. But in my work as president of the FA Democrats, I try to make sure that this isn't just a political or partisan social club. I think my job is to look at the political issues facing my community, like, for example, the 287G program. This assault on human dignity and due process endangers all 61,000 students at FAU, and because it's been branded as a political issue, no one is willing to go out and fight it. So that's what I see my job as a Democrat to go and do something about. Because none of the other student groups want to touch it, they're afraid that their funding will get rescinded, and they actually might be right. So when I do my work, I'm not just a Democrat. I'm not just looking for your vote. I'm not just telling you to register because I want you to vote for whoever the Democratic nominees in the next election, no matter what. I'm reaching out to them because I care about them and because I represent that community. So the first thing I say is, is not that I'm a Democrat. I talk to them about their problems because every American hates when a political party comes knocking on their door every 2 years to ask for their vote and then disappears after that. So local groups like ours, chapters like ours, we have a responsibility to stay involved and engaged in community problems year-round, and that's where it has to start.
Want to jump in on that question? With the question, so what's something that has worked on campus to make the message land, and what should we absolutely avoid doing when trying to win back? The keynote, yeah.
Actually, if I could, at these events all the time, I'm approached by people who do happen to be older, and usually the question is one of two questions. They're anxious that there are no young people, or at least relatively few young people at events like this, or they're frustrated that they don't see young people organizing. Those are really, really understandable. When it comes to the anxiety that a group like Indivisible doesn't have that many young people at an event like this, first of all, I credit you for hosting an event like this. The fact that you recognize it and the fact that you're doing something about it is way more than most of our political environment is going to do. And the second thing is, it's okay, because there are generational differences in organizing, in methodology, in values, and in priorities, and that's good. The Democratic Party is a Big Ten party. Diversity is our strength. And not every movement within the Democratic Party has to belong to every generation equally. Young people have their own organizing spaces, like Jayden has the FFL PAC. The FAU College Democrats is explicitly for college students, and there is plenty of political infrastructure in the county that exists mainly to serve older folks. That's fine, that's good. When it comes to the frustration, here I have to echo a lot of what Jayden said. If you want to see young people organizing, help us. Goodness knows we need it.
I want to do a quick little backup on the room. When we take a look around the room, you can see we've attracted the same demographics over and over again. So I think it's now time to open the floor to the audience, to the demographics that it's easy to attract, whether it's Democratic Party, Republican Party, or this party, the indivisible, right? At this time, I see the first person is making her way up to the microphone. Please state your name and whoever your question is geared towards. If it's geared toward anyone, you want anyone to answer that question, anyone will answer the question, unless you state a specific analyst that's up here. Fran, pull the mic. See, I can't hear, and I feel like I got the same looks that I get when I'm not talking in the mic. It might be on. There it goes.
Hello.
There we go.
So my name is Fran Taylor, and this is directed toward anyone, but I think Nick mostly addressed it. A lot of us are older people, and don't forget there's a lot of discrimination against seasoned people too. We're told that we're too old, we can't, no, we're incompetent. There's a whole list of isms that are directed toward people our age and your age, and towards sexual differences and all kinds of differences. You've all been overlooked. How can we put aside these differences as a Democratic Party and work together, not look at age, not look at sex? The Democratic Party needs to stick together. We can say we've been overlooked, we don't like this candidate, we don't like Jolly, he was a Republican. The Republicans never do that. Whoever the candidate is, right or wrong, they support them. We have to stick together. We have David Jolie. It's kind of late to get somebody else in the game. We have these people here, we have you and whoever you can bring. how can we work together and not say, we've been overlooked, maybe I've never had a chance because I'm a woman, and now I'm whatever age I am. And a lot of these people would like to help, all people who are Democrats, I'll say. And how do we go about getting a David, because let's face it, the governor of Florida, that position is going to make the most difference of what happens to Florida, and there's a lot of bad stuff in Florida. How do we as a group get him elected? I'll knock on doors, but again, nobody's reached out to me either. So I'll go on the David Jolie website and say, I'll be willing to make phone calls, whatever I need to do. But no one personally has reached out. So how do we all, I'm looking to you, who has said, you know, the things that you don't like about the older folks or the seasoned. Can we all, no criticism, no judgment. How can we all work together?
First off, I don't want you to think that my statements before was any sort of criticism of our older folks, okay? Big fan of our older folks, okay? Just put that out there. Look, I am going to be very, very honest with you. I'm going to be very honest with you. It's not going to be well received what I'm about to say, okay? But I'm very honest with you, okay? We are in a state that has 1.3 million more Republicans than Democrats. In 2018, we had hundreds of thousands more Democrats than Republicans in our state. We lost in 2022 statewide by 20 points, and we lost in 2024 by 14 points. And the only reason why it was less was because it was a presidential election where we had more turnout. We're going into a midterm here, where turnout is going to be less than what it was in 2024. The chances in which we win any statewide race is slim to none. That's not the point, though. Don't get discouraged. We want to win, obviously. That's huge. But what matters most is our state legislative races and our local races to build that bench for the future, okay? The state legislature, what do they fight on? Your property insurance, your car insurance, your taxes, your traffic laws, everything that you care about locally, as well as your municipal electeds, is what matters the most, okay? We have a real availability in the next few years to get out of the super minority that we are in the state house and the state senate. That is not going to happen if we focus on very unlikely races, which includes the governor's race, the attorney general's race, the senate race, all of these different things. It starts with building a bench, okay? And that's the state legislature, and that's our municipal elections. So I'm sorry to say it like that, but I say it in the sense of I have a lot of hope for the future and encouragement about what we can do, but we have to have our priorities straight.
Anyone else wants to?
Sure. One thing about me, I have a lot of, useless statistics in my brain, so I'm gonna run through one real quick, that I find interesting. Jana Ray said overall that, we're about 1 million, a little bit over that in terms of voter registration here in Florida. We've lost major ground over the last 8 years. One thing that I find particularly interesting is that, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me because it might have changed, but from, I believe, about the 2016 to the 2020 mark to around now, there's actually about 1 million less active voter registered to vote in Florida. Now, what does that tell you? We have grown at least, I believe, a few million in terms of the last few years. So why would voter registration actually be lower if there's more people in the state? So on one hand, you could say, well, there's a lot of Republicans who are moving here and they're taking a lot of space and they're obviously dominating our politics. On the other hand, it also tells me that there's a large swath of people out there who are just simply not being reached, who just fell off the voter rolls and are not being contacted again. So they are just invisible to our voter calls, to our text messages, or basically they don't even care about the advertisements. So what it tells me is that when it comes to Florida in particular, we need to go out there and register new voters, or honestly, quite honestly, voters who just simply aren't voting anymore, who are just inactive. We need to go back out there and talk to people, because it's not so much that Republicans are dominating as much As they have people who are registered to vote for them, they're actively contacting these people and getting them involved. They're gaining new people. We need to start gaining people, because at this point, as Jane already said, the statewide races are going to be extremely tough. So overall, get out there, talk to people that we don't know, strangers even. We need to get the voter registration roll back up before we can start thinking about statewide offices.
And I would just add on to, I think it starts with humility, on both sides, right? So our young people, as I am, I'm only 38 years old, we bring a sense of urgency, creativity, willingness, I can't say the word, to disrupt the status quo. Where our seasoned folks, they're going to bring, or our older generation, they're going to bring experience. They're going to bring institutional knowledge that we might not be aware of, that I'm still learning, right? We're still all learning. But I think when we get to the point where we are also coming together and we're sharing what we have in common, because there's a lot more in common than differences. And I will share, friend, right? I would share when I was knocking on the door, something I will find just a little bit on Frank's point. I was knocking on the door as a school board rep or candidate, and I had to talk to all walks of life, right? Democrats, Republicans, nonpartisans. I don't know. I probably knocked on over 2,000 doors and probably received a little over 4,000 votes. About 2,000 people said the same thing. It was a common theme, whether you were a Democrat, a Republican, or a nonpartisan. We're not doing the boots on ground grassroots. We're sending flyers, assuming that we're looking at flyers. My son voted for the first time 2 years ago, and I can tell you, prior to him turning 18, not one person knocked on the door. Thank God I was in the civic engagement world, right? Not one person. His friend, we did about 72 of his friends and peers, none, zero, received a knock on the door, received a specific thing that was for them up until when they turned 18, right until they turned 18, when they received their, hey, you're now registered to vote. So that tells us, are we really doing the work that we're saying we're doing? Okay, I land there, and Michael, take the next question.
Michael Cantwell. I'll be political and say I'm the president of the Democratic Club of Delray Beach. Some of you have our newsletter, those that didn't have it taken away. In terms of, I can understand young people not having time, being angry, being disillusioned. What I can't understand, and this goes for not only young people, goes for up to seniors, people who can't tell the difference between a party that believes climate change is a Chinese hoax and people that understand it's an existential threat. And it's an existential threat to much greater to you guys than it is to me, and I don't know how we can communicate that. When you look at the polling, where does climate change fit on the list, down 10th or 12th or whatever? And I understand it's more pressing issues, obviously, if you're looking for a job, but it is, I don't have the answer. I don't know how we can, energize people.
So is that the question, Michael? How can we energize?
How can that message become? Why are there? And I was thinking when Trevor was saying, giving statistics, some of the creep or the imbalance between Republican and Democrat is, I think, from Democrats becoming NPAs, or people that in the past would have been Democrats deciding, a plague on both houses, I'm going to be an NPA.
I think the answer to your question is hiding inside your question. because you say, I get that young people and that really all people are disillusioned with the system. They feel that the system is broken. And they have every reason to feel that way because they're right. So when it comes to a candidate like Trump, who comes on the scene in 2016 and tells people that he's going to drain the swamp, that he's going to fix all the problems in institutional politics, and Democrats run the same type of candidate that they've run for decades, for better or worse, then, people who feel that the system is screwed up are going to vote for the person who promises to fix it. So this is truer for young people than for anybody else, and we saw exactly the same thing in 2024, because young voters jumped about 10 points rightward from 2020 to 2024, especially young white men like me, who, there's plenty of other grievance politics, by the way, for white folks and for men, that lead to that political imbalance. And the answer is that Trump is a con man, and anyone with common sense and media literacy should be able to see that his promises to fix the system are lies. He has used a broken system to enrich himself and empower himself and run away from criminal investigations and, all these other things, right? Democrats need to fix the system. Democrats need to promise to fix the system, but for real this time. So until we run candidates that run on a platform like that, if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same results.
Could I just follow up by saying that the other thing that when you look at what Biden did, he took a train wreck and he fixed it. Okay, and he couldn't, and what we do with this is we take 2 steps forward to fix the last disaster, and then people say, well, what have they done for me lately? Well, what Biden did with the split Senate and a 4-vote majority was the greatest political administration in my lifetime.
100% agree. I do want to add one part to this real quick. Having worked on the campuses all year last year, one of the things that I saw most pressing, in my opinion, was the level of misinformation and disinformation that has seeped into our politics, especially amongst young people, which, in my opinion, is the answer to your question in a lot of ways. Because, and I'll give you an example, Amendment 4, we all know Amendment 4 last year, the right to choice. Young women on these campuses, when we were able to get them to go vote, would tell me that they are going to vote in support of Amendment 4 and then vote for Republicans. They are voting antithetical to their own beliefs. And I had to explain that to them because they didn't understand that Republicans are the ones actually making it harder for them to have rights like Amendment 4. And that is across the board on all of these issues. They have kicked our asses on these types of issues with their misinformation, disinformation, and how much more money they have in politics than us, especially here in Florida. So that would be my answer to that, and I do agree with that as well.
I just want to add to Jaden's point. Jaden, another thing I would say is the messaging, right? Their messaging are not only incredible, but they're messaging year-round. They're aggressively messaging year-round. And we're messaging right around voters' time. So just wanted to add that. And I think you have...
Yeah, and honestly, Michael, just to kind of rip off what everyone else was saying up here, I think Nick said something that, 2 words that kind of stuck with me, media literacy. The huge problem that we're facing right now is that there's a whole ecosystem out there of people who are getting information from the least credible people you could imagine. We're talking about Theo Vaughn, we're talking about Joe Rogan, we're talking about right-wing manospheres who are telling men, especially men, because as Nick said, young people moved to the right this last go around, right? Now, I do think a lot of that does come down to a little bit of affordability, but we're also losing this invisible culture war against the Republicans in this case, when you have people railing against woke, the trans, all that good stuff that younger people just, they don't, especially men, they just don't relate to it. They don't care about it. They really hate us for that type of stuff, even though we're not doing anything in particular. So I think that really truly how to escape some of this mess would be some combination of civics and media literacy. There's too much fake news out there. I can't even blame TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they're all complicit in this, right? So we need to reach out to our young folks early and often to make sure that they know about media literacy, that they know what, hey, this is fake news, or this is not real, or it's manipulated, or whatever, and to guide them to better sources of information to get it from. Doesn't have to need to be Democratic politicians or anything, but more legitimate news sources.
One final thought. A lot of answers boil down rightly to, oh, the Democrats need to improve their messaging. 100%. I think it's valuable for everyone here to walk away with something that they can do better to fix this issue. So many Democrats and so many progressives are very inward looking. They talk only to themselves, especially when it comes to an event like this. I don't remember ever going to a political event where I've spoken to an audience of people that I'm aiming to persuade, rather than to an audience of people that already agrees with me. And that is the same for media, for in-person. You know, we pick the people we agree with, and we create echo chambers, no matter what. So I encourage all of you, break out of your bubble. Make friends with the Trumpists. It's hard, it's really hard. Make friends with the Trumpists.
Not necessarily make friends. I'm not making friends because there's no reason there, but there is. No, I will have the conversation. I am the most recent person in life, but friends, I don't know. Colleagues, acquaintances, maybe.
My name is Bonnie Miller, and Nick, I'm going to follow up on what you just said. How do I talk to my Republican friends who believe everything that the Republicans are saying and doing?
I think I'm an optimist, I think, compared to how a lot of progressives feel about this. I think most people who vote for Trump have been swindled and conned. They really don't know the full extent of what they support. And if Democrats could make the truth more appealing than lies, then they wouldn't vote for Trump. And that same messaging issue that we have on a national level, people have on a very individual level. So I think you have to find the goodness in these people who vote for Trump and appeal to it and work from there. Because a lot of people start with issues or policy positions, and when it comes to the right-wing media environment, a lot of people get all of their opinions straight from Fox. Hate sells, disgust sells, fear sells. And if you are the one person who breaks them out of that and says, look, I see where you're coming from, if you watch all of this, of course you're going to be fearful and paranoid and disgusted. But have you considered that it isn't true? I mean, look out your window. Are there riots in the streets of the cities because of Democrats and BLM? Absolutely not. So if you can appeal to your shared reality, the things that you both have in common, and if you can appeal to the things deep down that are good about them, then that's what you have to do. It is very difficult. Try.
In all seriousness, Bonnie, I would say avoid loaded languages. So I have family members I know that are in the world. They're not a Trumper, they're a MAGA. They're in that world. And one way that I get to be the common ground between our family and keep it grounded is avoiding languages like you're racist, you're brainwashed, those attackful, judgmental languages. And I would definitely say find a common ground. There's several times that we've had these conversations where there is common ground. There's things that's going on between both sides. Understanding where they're coming from, sometimes you can't understand, but understanding where they're coming from, listening without judgment, letting them finish, don't attack. I think that has been helpful to just hear them, hear them out. And then when they're done, I'm able to give them a fact and say, hey, well, I want your perspective on this scenario. And I give them something that would impact their children. I give them something that would impact my nieces, my nephews. And from that standpoint, they're looking at it from a different lens. And they're less aggressive.
It's really hard.
It is.
I do want to add one thing to that question. I'm going to drop a bomb on this room real quick. My best friend is a Trumper.
Yes.
Best friend. Okay, we've got another one. I'm praying for you, I guess. Look, my best friend voted for Trump. My best friend vocally supported Trump through the 24 elections. And after months of going through all of the different issues with him, during the election, now after the election, what he cares about, talking about news. One day he walked up to me and said, dude, I was an idiot. And he changed his party affiliation and registered as a Democrat. And it was from months of talking about the issues of what's going on. I really, look, I think this is this mindset that all young people are progressive. I'm not progressive. I'm pretty moderate, to be honest with you. And it's okay if you're progressive. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is you're able to have conversations with people. I understand that what Trumpers believe are ridiculous, in my mindset at least, but it doesn't make them any less person than me, any less human than me or you. They are people, at the end of the day, who have believed something that I believe is garbage, but at least I can have a conversation with them and try and solve that with them. And I think that result of him changing his party affiliation and registering as a Democrat right in front of me told me that this is possible and that it starts with talking to people about what matters to them.
And I think one last note on that, actually, it's just a quick anecdotal evidence in this case, but I was in Key Largo the other weekend, and I guess I have a friendly face, so the local Trump group came up and started talking to me, and he's talking about politics in a sense. I think the way to talk to a lot of Republicans, conservatives in general, is they're gonna wanna focus on the woke issues, that type of stuff. We need to focus on the issues that we know that they probably agree with. So, easy way to relate with them, even though we know the Republicans vote conservative all the time, they still don't particularly like the rich. They would still be in favor of taxing the rich. That's something we can relate on. We relate on the importance of public schools and the danger that taking money away from that would hurt. And overall, with this administration in particular, there's a ripe opportunity for Democrats to harp again on probably the most politically salient message in politics that resonates around the world: corruption. And there is no more there's never been as much of a corrupted administration as what we are witnessing currently. So the best thing we can do is focus on the issues we know we'll agree on, and we'll work up from there. And hopefully we change our mind a little bit.
And right before we go, Ruth is going to be our last question of the evening.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Williamson, and I've been a teacher of environmental science at the high school level for 15 years. And I have long been frustrated that people constantly overlook the youth brilliance, their innovation, their passion for making a positive difference in the world. And I've heard a lot of people, even here tonight, saying, like, how do we reach out to young people? But sometimes it comes across more like, how do we get them to do what we want? And so I think what we're missing often is listening, is actually wanting to hear what you care about, why. And so to all of you, and I know this is hard, this is a lot going on, I don't know if you know, there's a lot. But of all of the issues that really are very relevant right now, are there any patterns that you see? Like, what are the most common things that you hear young people are actually worried about? That's just...
The most common thing across the board is affordability and the cost of living. Trevor just told us that, when you want to talk to a Trump supporter and you want to find common ground on an issue, affordability is one of those issues. Because if you think about it, Donald Trump won the presidency, and Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary for New York City's mayor on one of the same campaign issues, affordability. Trump kept talking about inflation and the economy. Mamdani kept talking about rent. So when every American in the country looks at their checking account and young Americans wonder if they're ever going to own a home, that's something that all of us have in common. There are a lot of particularly active and passionate young people who feel particularly strongly about social issues. A lot of young people are eager to take the Republican characterization of wokeness and DEI and this culture war crusade at face value and say, yes, we are woke, we support DEI. You know, me too. But you're gonna lose the next election if you keep talking that way. You wanna find something that everyone is gonna agree on instead of just half of the half of the half of the population. And affordability is that issue.
Honestly, exactly what Nick is saying. I mean, we saw the Mamdani campaign. I mean, he pretty much had to say, we all know what he was focused on from the get-go. And I think it's really, it's not rocket science, honestly, in a sense. If you focus on an issue that people care about, especially affordability that resonates with everybody, you will get support. Maybe you will win, even like Mamdani, who really turned out younger people. We're sitting here talking about how we could turn out younger people when people like him already gave us a blueprint on how to do so. Now we just need candidates and politicians to live up to that and to fight as hard as that and to basically be in that fight for our working class people. So that's how
You know, I echo everything that was just said. I started this off by talking about the property insurance crisis, the auto insurance crisis that we have, and that young people, you know, voted in droves for Donald Trump last year because of the promises he made on affordability and the fact that they did not feel what the Joe Biden economy was. Affordability is the biggest thing. I mean, there's nothing else bigger than that. I have friends who I go golfing with, who I know have very little in their bank account. They want to go golfing now. They need money. They still go golfing with me. And I know that. And their friends, the exact same thing. You know, everything revolves around money to be able to do things. And young people can't get enough of it, no matter how much they already make. That's what it is, in my opinion.
Hi, my name is Kalina. I'm a high schooler. Sorry. Hi, I'm Kalina. I'm a high schooler and I'm a part of the Palm Beach County High School Democrats. And I'm just wondering, how do I, from my demographic, how do I get them to care more? And from that, getting them to care, getting them to show up, to join groups, to come to events like these and be more active in the community.
I just realized we have a mutual friend, right? Michael Gomez? Yeah. Okay. I know that you guys are working on these voter registration drives at local high schools. And I'm glad you're working on it because it's the very first thing I recommend. We said that, Jason, I think both of you make this point that no one talks to young people. They are not an electorate that anyone is hunting down to get their vote. So even just showing up and talking to them about politics, demystifying it, giving them an opportunity to register, and telling them that, hey, your vote counts exactly as much as Donald Trump's does, that puts things into perspective for them because, first of all, they're thinking about it. Chances are pretty good they weren't even thinking about it beforehand. But second of all, you're the first to reach them. I mean, Republicans are not doing voter registration drives in schools because if every graduated high schooler voted, they would vote predominantly for Democrats, probably. So Republicans have a vested interest in people not voting. Democrats do, especially when it comes to young people. So just being there and just talking to them and being present is the first step and the most important step.
I'm just gonna add on to, don't know the numbers, so I won't quote or I won't say that that's not a fact. I will say April 22nd of this past year, I was with the League of Women Voters, Boynton Beach Community High School. 22 students were in that room, and out of the 22, 12 voted nonpartisan. League of Women Voters came in, originally no one wanted to register. Love League of Women, I'm a member, but they didn't want to register. The reason they didn't want to register, you know, after we had additional conversations, and these are juniors in high school, junior and high school seniors, right? The reason they didn't want to register was because we brought a paper to them and we said, hey, register to vote. And it's like, no, I don't want to register to vote. Or senior checkout day, right when everyone is leaving, their final day, they wanna say goodbye to their friends, their boyfriends and girlfriends. We're shoving a paper saying, do you wanna register, do you wanna register? Oh, you gotta know your last 4 digits of your social security number. And those students did not wanna register because they didn't really know why they were registering to vote. So when it comes to registering students to vote, be intentional. Don't just go out and look for a vote. Start with the education. When we came back and we had a educational session with those students, more registered to vote, more sent in their envelope that was filled out. So I would say, just to add on to that, be intentional, educating them, not the day that you're trying to register them, because you're not going to reach some of these children nowadays. They don't know who to vote for, and their safest bet right now, and that is from 132 students. That is a focus group with 132 students. They don't know who to vote for, so their safest bet is what's the party that's not Obama or not Trump. And that's when you tell them nonpartisan, that's their safest bet because they, in their mind right now, is too far right and too far left. So be intentional in the educational piece, and that's what I would add to that element. Be intentional in the educational piece before registering them to vote.
One of the questions before was, how do we not talk at youth? And how do we support them? What's your name again? Kalina? Kalina runs the Democratic Club, right, you said, for the high schools? I imagine you need materials for events. You need food for your membership. You need tables, you need chairs. You probably have some events that you want to host at parks. I don't know what you want to do. I'm sure you need some money. Is that correct? Every single person here has donated to a political campaign before, right? Every single person here wants to see more youth involved, right? But you have a young person here who could probably use your help to be able to have those resources to do the work that you want them to do. So this. Okay, boom, there you go.
Raise your hand if you would like to support Hillary.
Beautiful, look at that. Now, what I see oftentimes is people raise their hands and then don't do it. So I'm looking at all of you people that just rose your hand. But look, it's empowering youth, okay? And I'll just give this quick part. You know, when I started the Florida Future Leaders PAC, I started it in January of last year. And it's completely youth-led. It's all students, basically. We ended up raising $1.3 million over 20,000 individual donors. And that was from working our asses off, okay, to raise that money. And it's much harder to do as a young person, okay? And if you want to empower people within your community, young people, to do that work, seems like we have someone here ready to do that. So I ask you to support it.
I only have like a couple words of even advice, or even thoughts I'd say, but as Charmaine said, everyone on this table said, basically educating your voters, educating people, because I know that if I'm not mistaken, the high school Dems, it's a little harder because you guys can't really organize in the high schools, correct? So the conversations that you have with your peers are going to be super important, and I can imagine that you don't want to be the politics person in high school, but it's really going to take someone to do that in order to get these people engaged. So on the flip side, and I don't want to put it all on the high schoolers or the young people, I do think that, in a sense, I think our candidates should do a better job of crafting a message and reaching out to younger people as well, because at times, you know, it really takes the candidate's charisma basically to rope people in to say, hey, I do see a hopeful future, yet things can improve. So in a sense, I don't want to throw it all on the young people. I think in some cases, in some areas of the country, we need better candidates that could really resonate with them and talk to them and really hear them out. So, you know, I think it's half and half, somewhat half and half, right?
By the way, pick the better candidates in the primaries.
Our last question, Ruth, and I think Dad is going to join her. Oh.
So this is my dad's question.
I love it.
So the question is, how do we create more international spaces for collaboration?
How do we create more intergenerational spaces for collaboration? Great question, Ruth.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because it harps on something I always really believe. Now, who here have you guys been to a Democratic Party, the general meeting? Anyone raise their hands? Anyone been to a Democratic Party meeting? Okay, so, half the time the Democratic Party meeting is good, it runs well, but there's another half where it can be a lot of, infighting and dysfunction and whatnot. So I think the change really starts with all of us in a sense. We are all here because we agree on a good amount of the issues. We don't need to agree on all of them, but we genuinely care about it for our other person, our neighbor, our friends and family. So I truly do believe that at the end of the day, it's something that's really going to be coming from our parties, our groups, our organizations, to create spaces for us all to be able to collaborate and work together. Also, one last piece I'd say, for any of these meetings, any of these groups meetings, we need to make it as functionally available to middle-aged people as well, that age group from 20s to 30s who may have a full-time job, have a kid, maybe they're taking care of their parent or something like that they're not able to come out and be involved as much as they would want to. So creating virtual spaces for them to come on to a meeting when it's virtual allows them to stay at home with their kids, or their family, their friends, whatever, so that they're still able to be a part of the process, that we don't leave them out of the process, if that makes sense.
So, local party committees, the EECs, they do a lot of work. In terms of making them interesting to young people, I think there are more realistic places to start. There are basically two types of political events. Events where you're talking about getting something done, and events where you're getting something done. This is one of the events where we're talking about getting something done. When you're knocking on doors, when you're phone banking, when you're protesting, that's when you're getting something done. Generations should come together at those events. Because when it comes to talking about getting something done, first of all, Democrats and progressives do way too much of that compared to getting stuff done. And second of all, the way that generations talk about getting something done is often very divergent. So there is a lot of culture clash, a lot of intergenerational clash at these events. And for better or worse, that's the way it is. Get together at the places where stuff gets done. And by the way, this also comes down to outreach. And I'm glad that Indivisible is doing a lot of work for this. They have the Youth Outreach Committee. I am going to make sure that all of you get in your mailing lists the information about our September 5th protest, where we're going to be demonstrating at FAU on the Boca campus, and we want you to be there with us. First of all, because we want a lot of people. We don't want it to just be students. We want as many people as possible. We want any American who is for our Constitution and for due process and for natural rights to demonstrate along with us. After all, it's a public university. But also because there are advantages to being intergenerational. It is a lot tougher for FAUPD to give us a hard time and bully us when it's not just students. So, for example, we're working along with, or I'm trying to outreach to folks at the Osher Lifelong Learning Center, which is an institution at FAU. They have a ton of seniors come and participate in classes, basically auditing those classes. In fact, I took a class last semester, America in the 1960s, where most of the students were born in the 60s. So they have a lot of interesting perspective to offer. I want every single one of them to relive their youth and join us on September 5th.
Creating intergenerational spaces, I would say walk in every room with a mindset of everyone brings value. Adults, the youth. I'm going to take a page out of the Parent-Teacher-Student Association, where I was just at a conference with 1,000 students. And the students said, take a look around the room and take a look at the panelists, and we're supposed to be working together. Almost having the same similar conversation. And they said, at the table that's working, you have all of the parents working. Here you're asking us to do a student-led, but it's intergenerational, and there is not an intergenerational panel. No knock, this was great. These panelists was amazing, but be intentional. That's what I would continue using the word, if you could continue here this evening, is intentionality. be intentional on how you are navigating the spaces around the room. Your vendor tables, your sign-ins, your panelists, make it all intergenerational. And that's how you create that space where it doesn't seem like, hey, the parents are doing the work, the seasonal folks are doing the work, and the children are just using the voice. Now, we're all doing that work, right? So, any last word, because we do have to wrap it up, it's 7:40. Last word, one sentence.
I think the biggest thing that I would want to leave this with is I think we've established the issues that youth care about, I hope. I think the two most important things is that we all want to see more youth, and that starts with empowering them and giving them the resources to do that and the availability to make that happen. Whether that's with the high school Democrats or what Nick is doing at FAU, I'm sure he also could use some resources for the work that he's trying to do and registering people to vote. To echo something that Nick has said, we are a lot of talk and very little action. It's time to back up the talk with some action and start supporting these people that want to make things happen. And selfish plug, running our state house. Woo, let's go. But no, seriously, support youth that have an actual plan. Please. It helps us, makes us get things done, and gives us motivation to keep going. And energizes those around us that you don't see us talking to every day because you're not with us every single day. That's my
I would say, over these next few years especially, as everyone up here has been saying, stay engaged, talk to your youth, also even talk to your family members and people who have kids long done. Make sure that they stay engaged, they know what the right information is, make sure that they are ready to vote, and try to advocate for what we believe in and see if they will come to our side. But these next few years are going to be really key for Democratic groups, and we need to stay in this fight because it's going to get, as it already has been, pretty tough. So don't lose hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
I should have saved my zinger for last, talking about less talking, more doing. But I'm glad Jaden brought it up. However, it is not too late for me to do my own selfish plug since we're talking about supporting young people. The FAU College Democrats are working on their year-round voter registration program. When we were on campus last year in August of 2024, we had 3 or 4 folks working up until Election Day to get as many people registered as possible before the deadline, and once the deadline hit, to turn out as many people as possible to early voting, and then on Election Day, golf carting them over to the polling place on campus. One way or another, it takes a lot of money. And when it comes to youth organizing, it's difficult for young people to sacrifice a lot of their time for volunteer work. After that, we did everything on a volunteer basis. And with just as much spirit and just as much heart, we continued doing voter registration, but we were on the breezeway for a fraction of the time. So young people put in the hours when they see light at the end of the tunnel. Career opportunities, political internships, a stipend, and that's what we're trying to put together this year so we can have a voter registration program year-round.
I would say let's all give a round of applause to the panelists that teed us off with the closing tonight. If I had 3 words to close us out, it would be invite, involve, and invest. Invite someone from another generation, whether younger or older, to come and support what you're doing. Let them get involved in the work that you're doing and invest in one another, because we need each other to get this action that we're talking about. We need each other to do this actionable work. So invite, involve, invest. Let those 3 words resonate with you. I'm going to bring Myra back up here, and one more time for our panelists. And then for Indivisible, one time for this group and for all of you being here. Another round of applause. Thank you.
totally am blown away by this panel, and Charmaine, I truly did not know what to expect at this, and these three, and you two, I have hope. I have hope for the future with that the youth, they are going to take us places, and things are going to be amazing in the future. I have every hope. I am so impressed by you three, you four, the four of you. This was awesome, and thank you so very much for doing it. Thank you. There's refreshments, there's t-shirts, there's the talented team.